Casual Climbers is brought to you by Rose's Room. Rose's Room is the online home of author and columnist Rose Padrick, where she slips off her shoes, sips a cup of tea, reads a little, writes a little, and visits with her friends.
Rose's Room features curated works of hers over the past couple of decades and links to her books, columns, and publications. She is a Florida author and freelance writer born into an Irish-Italian family in New York City and soon moved to Florida's Space Coast, where she had a Huckleberry Finn-like childhood.
Her experiences as this child, a mother, and a grandmother serve as the inspiration for her column, Rose's Room, that's been published in Florida Today, Hometown News, Today's Senior, and currently in the Port St. John Happenings.
Rose's short stories and articles have been featured in Woman's World magazine, RV Life, Pet Gazette, Camping Today, Quiltworks, and many other popular publications.
Browse her works on her website, rosepadrick.com, and drop her a note. She would love to hear from you. That's ROSEPADRICK.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Casual Climbers, the podcast by and for beginning hikers. I'm your host, Donna Padrick, and alongside me is my husband and adventure buddy, Roy.
Hey, Donna.
Hi, Roy.
So in this podcast, we provide you with tips, tricks, and reviews of some of the many hiking trails here in the Blue Ridge area. Now, we may be somewhat unfit hikers.
We're definitely unfit.
Yesterday proved that. But we love the outdoors, and we want to share our experiences with you. In today's full episode, we discuss the Sam's Knob Summit Trail in the Pisgah National Forest, North Carolina.
It's Sam's Knob? Not
Sam's Knob.
Okay.
Yep. We also have a fun fact about a civil rights icon from the area
And
review a cool, lightweight trail stool. So what do you say, Donna? Ready to get started?
let's go.
So here's Sam's Knob Summit Trail by the numbers. The distance is 2.8 miles there and back. The time it took us was 1 hour and 53 minutes, and of that, 1 hour and 42 minutes was actual moving time. The lowest point was 5,607 feet, and the highest point was 6,111 feet. So there's a 504 feet elevation change between the lowest and the highest points.
You feel it too.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Pets are allowed, and we saw a number of dogs.
Lots of dogs.
But in parts, it's a very narrow trail.
There was one little dog that I was concerned. That guy probably had to pick that dog up for some of it and carry.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine carrying anybody over some of the stuff that we climbed over.
No, me neither. And for mobility purposes, this is not a mobility-friendly trail.
No.
The first maybe 0.2 of a mile is fine, but you're not going to see much there. Once you get to the meadow, there's steps down, so you're not getting a mobility scooter or wheelchair down
Yeah.
there. And then from there, it just gets worse.
Yeah. It's like a boardwalk, steps down, which the steps down are okay. Coming back, there's I don't know why they can't just make them steps down both ways.
I think that's like physically impossible to do that.
Somebody needs to come up with
a
way to do that.
Or, like one of those.
You know what would be cool?
escalators
Yes, like a solar-powered escalator. There you go.
Yeah, but if
For the
you're
whole
out there,
trail.
if you're just a giant airport moving sidewalk that you just
Yeah.
I think that takes kind of the point out of hiking.
Well, there could be like little, like in between spots where you walk, kind of like when you're walking into Universal or I think airports, have like you walk a little ways and then you get on an, It's an idea. It's a thought. It's a thought.
It is an idea. Without judgment, it's an idea.
I feel like there's judgment.
A little bit. So to get there, search for Sam's Knob Trailhead on your map app, and it's right off the Blue Ridge Parkway. The parking area, let's first talk about that, Donna.
Okay.
So there is a paved parking area at the top that's got space for probably 30 vehicles.
Yeah.
Unless you go in the morning on a weekday, you're not parking in that.
Because it's so full.
It is probably the most populated and popular trails that we've done to date.
I think if you happen to go hiking there on a Saturday and it's 10 o'clock and you get a parking space, after you hike, go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. So there is extra parking and I use that term
Unofficial.
exceedingly loosely. There's extra parking down the road. So you get off the Blue Ridge Parkway onto the Trailhead Road, and it's about a mile from the Blue Ridge Parkway to the parking area. And there are some spots along the road
Be
where
careful.
people can park, but
Yeah.
please be very careful where you park
Because-
because the shoulders are very narrow, and a lot of times there's either a ditch or
Yeah.
it drops off the mountain.
Exactly. I would be very concerned in many of those places. I was concerned for people who had chosen to park in certain places that their vehicle, like a squirrel could come along and push on your vehicle and it would just roll
And
down
it
the
would roll
mountain.
down. Yeah. It's very tough. And every single spot was taken up. When we were leaving, there were people having to leave and not go
Not go
in
hiking
that
there.
area because there was simply nowhere to put the car.
Right. We had tried this hike the Saturday prior, but it was so cold, so rainy, so foggy, so cold that we chose not to because this is a high elevation.
Yeah. And even then, most of the parking area
Even
was full.
that was the one exception. We were able to find a parking spot. It was a good parking spot, but I think we found a parking spot because, like us, people had come, parked, saw the conditions, got out, felt
And
the
left.
conditions,
Yeah.
and then left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. If you go, try to go on a weekday in the morning. If you do go on a weekend, good luck trying to find parking.
If it's rainy, cloudy, foggy, you'll find a parking spot, but I wouldn't recommend doing this trail then because you're going to miss out on the amazingness of it.
And it's going to be tough. And we're going to talk about why it would be tough during a rainy time here in a second.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, the trail is fairly simple. It's a fairly wide gravel path that takes you to once you go in, and it's about 0.2 of a mile, maybe 0.3 of a mile, and you'll get to the wooden boardwalk stairs that go down to the first part of amazingness that is this trail.
Yeah.
And that is Sam's Knob Meadow.
Right.
So tell us about Sam's Knob Meadow.
Okay. So, yes, you get down this boardwalk steps thing, and at the bottom, you're hit in the face with this awesome wildflower field, purples and yellows. And because we're coming up on fall, there were some trees in the background that were already getting kind of orangey. So I got lots and lots and lots of pictures. So I'll try and only put the best ones out there. But
The meadow is huge.
yeah,
It's huge.
let me just go ahead and say, start to finish though, with this trail, if you are freaked out by the sound of buzzing bees and buzzing insects,
May not be the trail for you.
yeah.
I remember standing as we're walking through the meadow, you and I were intentionally quiet, and you could hear nothing
So
but the
many.
bees.
Yes.
It was just everywhere. And they won't bother you. Please, listeners, understand this. Bees won't bother you
I mean,
unless you irritate them or accidentally encroach on a nest or something like that. But these are honeybees that are out there. And you could see them all over, just hopping from wildflower to wildflower.
I think you said that a bumblebee landed on you.
Yeah, landed on my hand.
And then just flew away.
Just checking me out and flew away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we ran into a bunch of people and nobody got stung, as far as we know. It was actually really kind of special
Yeah.
going through this beautifully gorgeous meadow.
I freaked out by buzzing things, especially buzzing things near my head. And so I was very, very glad that I had my thermocells in my backpack. I had two, one in each pocket. The pockets that you're supposed to like carry something to drink in. I put my thermocells in there. And I believe you that the bees would not have bothered me. But those thermocells were my security blanket. They helped me calm my brain when I heard all the buzzing.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And at the beginning of the trail, there was a couple swarms of probably horseflies.
I think they were black flies, big black flies.
They were big, yeah.
And they were swarming around some poop.
Yeah. Somebody didn't clean up after their animal.
Or it was some wild animal.
Could have been a wild animal. Doubtful a wild animal would poo on a trail, but it could have been.
Could have.
And the thermocells kept those things away. And it was a pretty big swarm.
They
There's
were
probably a couple dozen.
They were actually
Each.
louder than any of the bees.
Yeah, yeah.
That freaked me out.
Yeah, so this meadow, and you walk right through the meadow,
Mhm.
right smack dab in the
Yes,
middle, and
the
on
fla-
the left and right, there's just
If you think you can
acres of
handle
flowers.
the sound of the bees, the flowers are worth it. They're so worth. And I'm talking. These flowers were as tall as me in some places. They were up to my like. So if you want to take a selfie with just some amazing wildflowers behind your head,
Which you did.
which I kind of did, yeah, that's kind of a cool place to do it. I know that people like to go to sunflower fields and take pictures with sunflowers behind them. Well, this is the wildflower version of that.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was blown away because I'm not a huge wildflower guy. I like flowers and I love nature and foliage, but I was blown away at how impressed I was with this because it's very late summer, early fall here, and this is you're talking 6,000 feet up.
Oh, also,
so you would expect more death, but the field was full of flowers.
If you are allergic, you definitely want to take your allergy meds before going here because
there's ragweed and everything else.
Yeah. I need to kind of study like the difference between ragweed and goldenrod because I know they look very similar, but I know that ragweed is the one that creates so many problems for so many of us who have allergies. I took my allergy meds.
And you didn't have any problems?
I didn't, but I I snort it and put it in my eyes and I take a pill.
We have stock in Claritin. Yeah. So once you get past this meadow, which you could spend time there, as much time as you wanted, you get to the T-junction where you can go to Little Sam's Knob on the left or the Sam's Knob Summit on the right. And we went to the right to go to the summit. And that's when the climb begins.
Right. So you could very easily just hike to the meadow, walk through the meadow, and then walk back. And it would be a piece of cake hike.
Yeah, I think so. Sure. Yeah. The only challenging part would be the stairs coming back up, but that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and they were like 3 steps and then a landing, 3 steps and then a landing. It was not, those stairs were not intimidating.
It wasn't bad. We don't recommend you do that though, because the summit is incredible.
Yes.
But let's just be absolutely clear with this. The climb up is steady, and you'll see the trail map with the elevation change on the Instagram photos that we put on the website and on our Instagram channel. And it looks like you're climbing up a mountain because you quite literally are.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like you're in this meadow and you looked over I was taking a picture of this beautiful mountain behind the meadow and you said, we're going to climb to the top of that. And I was like, no.
Yeah, we are.
You do realize the name of our podcast, right? You're aware, right? Unfit hikers.
Yeah, and so the terrain got much more challenging too. Rocks, not a lot of roots, but a ton of rocks.
Yeah.
And mud. There was mud in several places. And so that's why I say if you go when it's rained, you could clearly see on the trail that the trail itself is a watershed. So when it rains, water comes straight down that. There were several parts where, even though it hadn't rained in a week up there, it was still very muddy. And
we saw water
draining down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad we didn't do it last week because it was raining then when we went and had rained the day before.
Yeah.
It would have been
slog. Points where there was this one point when we were kind of halfway up the climb maybe and it was so muddy that it was one of those places where I stuck the hiking pole in just to make sure that if I stepped in that mud my foot wasn't going to go down to my ankle because that mud was so sloggy and deep.
It was, yeah.
You try to step on the rocks in between but sometimes you can't.
Yeah. And there are legitimate rock scrambles, some of the steps up to continue the trail are 18, 24 inches where you have to hold on to a tree and pull yourself up. There's some legit
I was glad
scrambles.
I had one pole. When we started this journey, I would have wanted 2 poles, but I now know the benefit of having just one pole because to have that one hand free to grab onto the rock or the tree or the whatever, that's kind of important. But I'm also glad to have the pole for certain other spots.
Coming down is when I use the poles the most.
Mm.
And so you go up and basically you ring around the mountain. That's basically what the trail is. You kind of ring around it. It is a legit climb. Some of the inclines are 25 and 26 degrees. It is a no joke hike. This is definitely a feel the burn hike. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I took magnesium last night because I would have had cramps this morning on my calves. It's a legit hike. So we don't want to scare you off, listeners, because the summit itself is worth every step of the way.
Yeah.
We actually stopped up there and had lunch.
Mm-hmm.
We sat on, there's several spots at the summit that are basically rock faces where you can sit and relax, do whatever. There's actually several spots. And even though it was a very busy trail, we actually had a little bit of solitude up there for a while to enjoy our lunch by ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's gorgeous. Tell us about the views up there.
Oh, they're just breathtaking. And okay, so there's this one mountain that you look at and it's all evergreen trees on one side of the mountain and it's all hardwood on the other side of the mountain. And
it is kind of crazy because it's like split right down the middle.
Yeah.
It goes right up the half of the mountain, all the way up to the top is pine on one side. And then the other side is all hardwood trees, poplars and spruce. And
so when I've been out to visit my sister in Colorado, up in the mountains, all of the, they only have the evergreens because that's what grows at the higher elevations. But the mountains will have the evergreens on the north side of the mountain, I believe. And that's because when it snows, the snow doesn't melt right away. It kind of steadily waters stuff in that dry area. But you can't use that here because...
No, because those pines were on the south side of the mountain.
Yeah. So you were saying maybe it might have been something to do with like logging
They
or
might
something?
have forested it because that whole land was owned by Vanderbilt.
Okay.
So, and he had a major logging operation there.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been logging, but who knows?
Who knows? It's interesting though because you're at a high elevation. Is this the highest elevation that we've ever hiked at?
That we've actually hiked on, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I felt it too. I think I felt that might have been one of the reasons why I had some of the issues that I had hiking. The air might have been thinner, might have been a little bit less oxygen. I don't know.
Maybe. We had to stop and rest several times on the way up just because it is a constant, fairly steep incline the entire second half.
Yeah.
So once you get to the summit, you have, 270-degree views of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yeah.
It's absolutely breathtaking. And if you go on the other side, there's a little spur trail right there at the summit that you can take and you can see the other side of the Blue Ridge Mountains from Sam's Knob. So you could see all 360, not from one spot, but you could see all 360 from the top of Sam's Knob in various points.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
We stopped and had lunch and then we were taking pictures and then you were like, okay, you ready to go back? And I was ready to go back, but then I was like, but one more picture, but one more picture, but one more picture.
Yeah. Honestly, even though it took us an hour and 53 minutes total, I paused the app while we were up there. So we were actually up there for 25 more minutes than what it said we were.
I thought, because when you said...
we had lunch for half an hour.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes more sense to me because I was like, I think that there was more time that we weren't moving.
The 10 minutes or 11 minutes that it said we were actually 11 less minutes that we were actually moving, those were our breaks.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. That's when we stopped and we're like, okay. I'm so serious. It was a slog up there.
Yeah.
The way down, and I want to be very clear to everybody listening, going up steep inclines is more challenging
to some
physically.
Yeah.
But going down steep inclines is more challenge balance wise,
Okay.
because your body's natural inclination is to fall down.
Well, yeah, gravity's pulling you
Yeah.
down.
So some of these steep inclines, when
And
you're going down them, and the footing was
yeah, sketch.
tenuous at best in many of the spots,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Mhm.
And I definitely needed one pole, and ideally would have had two.
Oh,
If I do this again, I would have two,
okay.
just to make absolute sure. So be very, very careful on your way down, listeners. There are some spots where you're stepping into a slanted rock,
Mhm.
and it's very easy to lose your footing and trip and fall.
Yeah.
So just be very careful. That's our PSA for this episode. Be careful going down these steep inclines.
It's your knees might not love you.
Yeah, we weren't out of breath, but my body felt it more going down than it did up.
Yeah.
So so the great part about that, though, you get to go back through the meadow
Mhm.
on the way back.
I didn't realize, because we had come through the meadow
Yep.
to start the climb. I didn't realize that because okay, there's this thicket of
It's a rhododendron thicket that you walk through. It's absolutely beautiful.
yes, and it completely canopies you, and so I'm sure that is amazing early summer and spring when the rhododendrons are blooming. They
Yeah.
weren't blooming when we were there.
We
But
called those our pockets of air conditioning.
yes. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely amazing how much
It was a warm
cooler.
day. It was almost 90 yesterday.
Mhm.
And in these little rhododendron thickets, it was easily 20 degrees cooler.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you're coming out of this thicket, and then there's the meadow with the wildflowers, and my eyes had been used to seeing just the rhododendron thicket, which was a lot of brown, some green for the leaves, not the colors of the wildflower field. And we came out of the rhododendron, and I just was like, wow. And you were just like, wow. I had to actually go back into the rhododendrons and get a picture of the archway of the rhododendrons with the wildflowers out there. And I think you're in the picture, because it's just so amazing. It just slaps you in the face with beauty.
Yeah. It does. It's big. And so you walk through, and the meadow is a good 3/10 of a mile long along the trail, with acres on either side of wildflower fields. It's really wonderful. And we saw tons of people. Everybody that went through was stopping and taking pictures.
Yeah, everybody was like, whoa.
Yeah. It's spectacular. So in this trail, guys, what you get is an amazing mountain vista
Mhm.
and a beautiful wildflower field.
And pockets of air conditioning with
It's a very
with
beautiful-
rhododendron canopies.
Yeah, and a challenging physical hike to get a good workout.
Are you putting that in the positive?
Yeah, because I mean,
Liz?
if you're hiking,
Okay.
you're doing it at least partially for physical exercise, right?
Maybe some people are, I guess.
Yeah. Otherwise, just drive. Just drive the Blue Ridge Parkway. You get you get amazing stuff.
You would never see that field.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, that's
You
right. You wouldn't. So yeah, definitely a field to burn. And Donna, this is one that I'm going to recommend to anybody.
Yeah,
honestly.
we have fallen in love with waterfall hikes and getting to a waterfall and that being the reward at the end. Hiking to a vista is different, but no less valuable.
No, it's just as good. It's just
Mhm.
as good. I agree. Yeah. So yeah, that's Sam's Knob Summit
Mhm.
in the Pisgah National Forest. We highly recommend it. It's a field to burn one, though. So be prepared to huff and puff on your way up if you're unfit like us.
Yeah.
But please keep going, because it's worth every step.
We should do a casual climbers t-shirt that says I hiked Sam's Knob.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. So, Donna, you have a fun fact today that I have no idea what it is. This is a first. Usually I have an idea, but this one I have no idea.
So this is the story about the Mary Jenkins Community Center in Brevard, North Carolina. Brevard, North Carolina is close to where we were hiking.
Yes, it's one of the access points to get you to the Blue Ridge Parkway, close to where this is.
Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd do a story about the Mary Jenkins Community Center there and the ladies who helped make it happen. So there's this lady called Mary. Her name is Mary Kilgore, And she was an African American who went to college, and she wanted to create a place for African Americans to gather for community meetings and social events.
Nice.
Now, this is back in the 1930s, 1940s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So during segregation.
Yeah. Life was different back then, I'm sure. So she went to her church, Bethel Baptist Church, and presented her idea. Now, this is in Brevard, North Carolina, but there was a black neighborhood in Brevard, North Carolina. And so this is where this is happening. She presented her idea, and the first community center opened on June 8th, 1942 at the church because she had so much positive energy about it. She's like, hey, we need a place for people to come and, do good things and visit and learn things.
Nice.
Yeah.
1942.
1942.
All right. So this is World War II has started.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. So there was a nursery, daily craft activities for 6 to 12-year-olds, and sports activities for teens. Now, this is just out of the church. This is something small. She saw something bigger. She placed an article in the local paper talking about the true need for a real community center, a real facility. This article was well received by Black and white citizens in the area.
Nice.
Yeah, working together. I love that. And before the project was completed, this community endeavor had been turned into a joint town and county effort. So that's
impressive.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It says that they were like-minded individuals, open-minded people that were willing to accept that.
Progressive for rural North Carolina during that time.
Yes. Yeah, I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they need my, whatever.
I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
So Mary C. Jenkins and Mrs. Ralph Ramsey, they were some white ladies that got involved. So Mary Jenkins and Mrs. Ralph Ramsey had an organization of Methodist women who played an important role in helping create the building that would belong to the community and serve as their center. Mrs. Jenkins was the widow of Frank Jenkins, who started Brevard Lumber Company, a business that the Jenkins family owned for nearly 100 years.
Yeah, it's still around. Yeah.
On August 24th, 1944, she sold approximately a half acre of land on Carver Street to the trustees of the Brevard Community Center for $85.
Nice.
To be used to erect a community center for the colored people of the town of Brevard. Quote, community center for the colored people of the town of Brevard.
I know that's not your words.
Yes. Yeah, it feels.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great, but that was the term at the time. That's what they said. Yeah.
The two ladies continued their fundraising efforts to help reach the $3,000 needed to complete the project. Can you imagine $3,000 to complete this project?
No. It costs $100,000 now, but she sold it for $85. It probably could have gone for
quite 10, a bit more,
15, 20 times that.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, she was giving it to them.
Yeah. I think,
The only reason she sold it probably because they had to have a value to it.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure she turned around and just donated that back into the project.
Probably. Yeah.
So the construction began in 1947, but didn't finish until 1952 because additional funds were needed. So they did need more than the $3,000 that they thought they needed.
Yeah.
So that's believable.
Contractor's going to always come back and
contractor's going to contract.
Yep.
The center operated under a community center board, and guess who was on the board? Mary Kilgore.
Mary Kilgore.
The black woman who started it all.
Who started the whole thing.
Which is,
I would hope so.
It should be. Yeah.
So.
It included a library with Mrs. Kilgore. I'm not sure if it was Mrs. or Miss Kilgore. I think it's Miss Kilgore, serving as the first librarian. But she was also a teacher and a librarian in the whole Transylvania County schools system for over 30 years. So
this is her deal.
Educating. Yeah. I love that. By May 1953, it had received 400 books, a community-wide expression of support.
That's fantastic.
I know.
Yeah.
I love libraries. Don't you love libraries?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
She had taken courses in library science from Ruth Bernard, the county librarian of Andrews, North Carolina. Boy and Girl Scouts of the Merry Heart Social Club and the Children's Playhouse were among the clubs that met in this new facility. A variety of parties, dinners, and dances were regular events. I'll bet people like rented out the space for like wedding events.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's for, right? It's a community center for the community. Yeah.
Yes. A craft workshop in the basement was set up to teach carpentry skills to young men, and in the summer of 1953, the Happy Land Nursery and Kindergarten was started to help working mothers.
Happy Land. That's so great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy Land Nursery and Kindergarten to help working mothers.
Nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what are you going to do? We're still trying to figure that out in this day and age, right?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that was back in 1953.
And I'm sure they charged truly affordable rates.
Or, yeah, probably if you qualified, maybe nothing.
Maybe free. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, the center closed in 2008 because of code and regulation issues. But that's not where the story ends.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to end on a bummer. Thanks for saving it.
No, that's not where it ends. Members of the Rosenwald, the Rosenwald community is the name of the community that is in Brevard, North Carolina. That is the black community.
Okay, so it's like a neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So members of this community advocated for a renovated center for years. They thought it was important to establish positive community programming that included education, health, and social services and other assistance to those in need. So it was time to paint a new picture of Rosenwald and no longer be considered one of the worst sections of Transylvania County. The debate was they had a professional assessment of the building that stated that cost of construction of a new building and the renovation of the existing one were very similar. So there was some back and forth of, do we renovate the old building or do we just build a new building?
Sure.
In 2018, the board of directors, so this is 10 years after it closed.
Okay.
The board of directors voted to grant the building and property to the city of Brevard in exchange for the construction of a new community center. So let's talk about another lady who's instrumental in the new center. I'm going to go back to her upbringing in that area.
Okay.
Because she can bring a lot of history to this. Her name is Edith. Edith was instrumental in developing a partnership with the city of Brevard to build the new Mary C. Jenkins Community and Cultural Center, which opened in 2022. So it's only been open for 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Sometimes change requires courage and tenacity and an unwavering belief in the American dream. Those are the qualities that describe Brevard's African American community in the early 60s. At the time, virtually every school in the South was still segregated despite the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision handed down by the Supreme Court that declared segregated schools unconstitutional.
Many, many states fought that tooth and nail for years. Yeah.
Yeah. In Brevard and Transylvania County, high school age of African American students were bused 42 miles every day.
Good Lord.
To attend an all-black high school in Henderson County. So imagine
That's
that.
at least an hour and a half drive.
I mean, it's a bus too, so like.
Yeah, I mean, they're stopping.
To pick up, yeah.
That's
42 miles one way. So that's 84 miles a day. I
on
mean,
a bus.
You really want your education if you're doing that.
Yeah.
So how early did the bus driver have to get up? How early did the students have to get up?
They were on the road at 5 a.m. to get there for classes starting at 7.
Yeah. And this is back in the time when, like it was not, you couldn't go to school in your pajamas.
No.
No,
they were
like
wearing
nowadays.
full on, pants and button up shirts.
Well, and the girls with
the dresses. And,
yeah. Not nearly as comfortable as what we're wearing either. So
I'm in my pajama pants right now as I do this podcast, listeners.
We complain if we have to travel like that to commute to go to work, and we have our AC in our cars and our heater.
Yeah, and not picking up kids every 5 minutes on the way.
Yeah, and we have our podcast to listen to.
They didn't have podcasts back then?
No.
They couldn't pop their iPhone on or Android, their Galaxy?
Really sad.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah. We don't have society telling us that we can't go to the same bathrooms or drink from the same water fountains either. I can't imagine what life was for them. I can't.
No, we can't. We can't imagine that.
Okay. Enter Reverend Samuel A. Raper, R-A-P-E-R.
Unfortunate name.
Yeah. Who encouraged local African Americans to form the Transylvania Citizens Improvement Organization in 1960.
Okay.
This is the part of the story where I'd like to tell you that it was easy for them. They just went to their local board of education, presented the issue, and the board was like, oh, hey, yeah, that's an awful burden. Let's change that.
Are you being sarcastic, or that actually happened?
I want to tell you that that's what happened. I can't tell you that's what happened
Oh,
because it didn't happen.
oh, God.
After twice being turned down by the local board of education, these citizens took their case to the federal courts and won, helping Transylvania County become the first desegregated school system in North Carolina.
Is that true?
That's true.
They were the first?
They were the first in North Carolina.
That's incredible. And it is really important to note that Transylvania County is mostly rural. Now,
Yeah.
I know Asheville is in Transylvania County, but it is still a very rural county. For
Is
the most
Asheville
part.
in Transylvania?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So, Brevard resident Edith Darity lived that history. For the first 3 years of high school, she was bused to Henderson County. But for her senior year in 1963, she attended Brevard High School as part of the first fully integrated class.
That's fantastic.
Yes, I love that for her. So this is a quote from Edith in a 2020 interview. Everything was just like the nonviolence movement. Everybody tried to be respectful in spite of anything that was said or done because our real purpose was to do this intelligently and safely. That was the organization's goal, to integrate successfully. So I'm glad that it was nonviolent, at least from Edith's perspective.
Yeah. Let me clarify this real quick. This non sequitur. Asheville's in Buncombe County.
Okay.
Transylvania County is just south of that.
I thought so. Okay. All
I
right.
apologize, listeners.
Yeah, I saw you looking something up real quick.
I wanted to make sure. It's just south of it.
Okay. All right. So, as an adult, Edith joined the Transylvania Citizens Improvement Organization and was a member for over 40 years, including serving as president of the Transylvania Citizens Improvement Organization.
Good for her.
Yes. 6 decades after her enrollment at Brevard High School, Edith is still going strong. So she
was in a segregated school in the early 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Was part of the first classes that became integrated in North Carolina, and has continued her activism
her whole life.
60 years later.
Yeah.
So she's in her 70s, clearly, now, at least.
At least, yeah. So 1 year after the opening of the new center in 2022, so this article that I'm reading from the Explore Brevard Keeping History Alive, it's explorebrevard.com Keeping History Alive.
Okay.
1 year after the opening of the new center, the community center has become a hub of activity for the city. The walls of the community center are filled with displays that showcase the history of Brevard's African American residents. And who is responsible for chronicling this rich history? None other than Edith Darity.
That's incredible.
Yeah, she lived it. I mean, I love living history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you go there and you look at pictures on the wall where they're segregated schools. She's like, yeah, that's me in the third row.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
incredible.
Yes. She said, I've tried to preserve as many pictures of things, activities, and people as long as I could. Somebody needs to tell the story. That's what a quote from Edith.
Good for her.
Yes.
And she's still kicking.
Yeah. As far as I know, I tried to look up. There's no, as far as I know, she's still kicking.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of the center has become a historical museum.
Nice.
And I wanted to mention too that Brevard has these historical markers that they've put up throughout the.
It's all throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2022, a marker celebrating the historic integration of Brevard High School went up in front of the school as part of it's called the North Carolina Civil Rights Trail.
Oh, nice.
And the road marker also celebrated Brevard High School's 1963 integrated football team that became North Carolina's AAA co-champions that year.
That's great.
Yeah. They figured out a way to work together.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you only have half your population as your base of your student base, you're not going to get the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
You need to have all of them. So it makes sense that you get the best of the white kids and the best of the African American kids. They're going to be better than the best of either one of the groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just they changed the world.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Even if they didn't think so at the time. They became the first in North Carolina. That's incredible.
Yeah.
In North Carolina, let's make this clear to our listeners who are not here, and shout out to our German listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome. So, yeah. It's crazy we have a pretty high German listener base, and so thank you guys out there for listening to us. We love you.
Yeah, if you're trying to learn English based on listening to us,
Oh God, please don't.
I don't know what to say. But I mean, maybe I don't know.
Maybe they're just traveling here. I don't know, but to our German listeners, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
We love you out there, guys.
100%.
But for those of you who don't know, North Carolina is very much the deep South. And so, especially the rural areas. So this is impressive that it wasn't in one of the big cities like Raleigh or Durham,
Asheville,
or Charlotte, or Asheville. That was even closer. Yeah, no, this was in a rural area that got integrated. That's very impressive.
I think that is a big thing. You know, Brevard has bragging rights. Brevard, North Carolina.
If I were them, I'd absolutely, that'd be my bragging right. Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's other stories, more negative stories, but thankfully Edith didn't experience negativity, or at least doesn't remember experiencing.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
Without question, she did. But she stuck through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it truly impressive. If she had it easy, it wouldn't be as impressive a story.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. A side note too, I mean, and this is not about the ladies in the community center. This is more about the Black history of Brevard, North Carolina. Okay. But on October 20th of 2023, the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources erected the Moms Mabley historical marker in downtown Brevard's Clemson Plaza on West Main Street to honor the famous Brevard native. This woman, she was born Loretta Aiken, and she went by Moms Mabley. She went on to become a world-famous comedian and performer, and she inspired the likes of Eddie Murphy and Whoopi Goldberg.
I had heard about Moms Mabley.
Had you?
Yeah. I knew
She's
about
from Brevard, North Carolina.
I did not know that, and that is impressive. And if you watch her stand-up comedy, because you can still see parts of it on YouTube, she's hilarious. She is hilarious. So I highly recommend anybody listening, check out Moms Mabley. If you can find her on YouTube, there's some clips. She's funny. It does not surprise me that she inspired Eddie Murphy and probably a lot of others.
Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah.
Yeah, probably a lot of others.
Yeah. So anyway, Brevard, North Carolina.
Brevard.
Check
Shout out to Brevard.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Uh-huh.
That is a good fun fact.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that one. It's a much happier fun fact from the 1940s and 50s than the one we did on the.
I thought we'd get back to
town.
Like actual fun facts.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, if you're there in Brevard, check out those historical markers and stop by and visit Edith if she's still around and listen to her stories.
Yeah.
So today's review is actually a product review, and it's for the Opley camping and hiking stool that can be found on Amazon. Also, if you go to our website, casualclimbers.com, there is a link at the top that says hiking gear. That will take you to our page of recommended gear that we have actually bought and used ourselves and can recommend to others.
Right.
So let's start out by saying this. We are not in any way promoted or endorsed in any way by this product or Amazon. So we bought this full price and we are giving an honest review. Currently, this hiking stool is on sale for $17. And it's basically like a folding stool.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever had those canvas and metal folding chairs that just kind of, you squeeze it together and it comes together, this is exactly what the stool is like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's small. It fits really easily in the side pocket of my hiking backpack. And my hiking backpack is not a full-size hiking backpack. It's fairly small. It's just for day hikes. And it fits easily in there. It's available now in 6 colors. And again, it's $17. It's a low investment. If you get it and you don't like it, you can obviously return it. But it's not like you're dropping, $100 on a hiking stool. It's a really good buy. And it supports up to 320 pounds.
Yeah, we're not going to test that, though.
Nope, not going to test it. But Donna, you're the one that's used it the most. What do you think?
I love it. I sat on it and had my lunch as I was enjoying a mountain vista yesterday, and it's really quite comfortable. I actually forgot that I was sitting on this little stool that was hiked up the mountain. It was quite comfortable.
It's nice and compact. I like that I can just fold it up and put it in my side pocket. It's not very heavy. It only weighs 1.5 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So my water bladder, when it's full, weighs more than that.
Mhm.
So I don't even really feel the weight on my backpack.
We really need to get a second one. We need to get one for you because I felt a little guilty when I was more aware. I'm sitting on a stool and he's sitting on a rock.
I wanted you to feel a little guilty for me.
Okay, well,
I wanted the pity.
yeah. Mission accomplished.
It didn't translate into anything, though.
Well, give me a minute. That was yesterday. Gosh, I'll buy the stool.
No, it's a great little hiking stool. It's like I said, it's compact enough. It's not very tall, but you didn't find that you had a hard time getting into it and out of it, did you?
Squatting down onto it or getting up off of it. No, I didn't have it was a good height. It was, looking at it, I thought it might be a little on the low side, but actually sitting, because I just stretched my legs out in front of me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's got the canvas seat. It feels really well built.
And I'm 170 pounds and I'm not super limber. I'm not super flexible. I would think that I would want a back to my chair and an ottoman and all of that stuff, but I didn't need it. It was comfortable.
No, it's perfect too, because we've used it. A lot of times what we talk about on these trails are there benches on the trail or places to sit? And having this eliminates that need.
Right.
We can just take it out whenever one of us needs a break.
Yeah.
And it's small enough, it takes up next to no space on the ground. So you don't need a big area to sprawl out in.
Yeah. Easy to get in and out of that side pocket of your backpack.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
It comes with a carrying bag. If you didn't have a hiking backpack, you could just strap it over your shoulder and carry it with you. But like I said, I just put it in the side pocket and it works great. So it's Oply, Oply, camping and hiking stool. You can find it on Amazon for $17. We got ours in blue, but you can get it in any color.
I didn't know it came in all those different colors.
6 different colors.
You should have asked me.
It was a surprise for you.
Okay.
I didn't want to ask you what color, 'cause then you wouldn't, and then it wouldn't be a surprise.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm surprised right now that it's available in so many colors.
Are you going to go look at it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I figured. So you'd recommend this though, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I would too. Check it out. Oply Camping and Hiking Stool. It's on Amazon, $17. Or go to casualclimbers.com, hiking gear, and you can click the link to take you right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our episode this week, guys. Sam's Knob Summit Trail off the Blue Ridge Parkway in Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina. It is a challenging, steep climb, but worth every second. The wildflower meadow, the vistas at the top, it's simply breathtaking. It's a physical challenge, but definitely worth every step. We highly recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to us in whatever podcast app you use and be sure to leave us a review because that's how our show grows. Feel free to check out our trail photos at casualclimbers.com. And if you have a question, comment, or just want to drop us a line, you can reach us at casualclimberspodcast@gmail.com.
So Donna, you said earlier that you did feel a little bad that you had the stool and I was sitting on a hard rock poking into my butt and thighs.
I kept offering to let you. I had things.
You did. But you can't get pity if I took you up on the offer. So what is that pity going to get me exactly?
Well, nothing now because I offered, you didn't take the offer.
So then the pity just goes away?
Well, you know what? That's a very passive aggressive kind of Italian kind of way of doing things. No. I'm okay. I'm fine. And then the day later, I find out that your butt was actually hurting. No, you don't get pity. No.
I don't like how this conversation took a turn. I think we're just going to end the podcast here. We'll see you out on the trails, guys.